natural. The planet has always gone through boom and bust cycles. Always. Materialism operates in boom and bust cycles. Remember, it is the fifth gate that establishes the pattern. That is, it establishes an underlying structure. But it's the 15th gate that gives it its diverse frequencies. You know, the way that I've always described that is that, you know, if you're writing a piece of music, you know, you can write a progression of notes, but if you change the frequency, if you change the rhythm, you can have many different songs from the same structure. You know, the slow song can become a fast song, and so forth and so on, and it changes its nature, its spirit, and everything, yet it's the same infrastructure. So when you're dealing with the 15th gate, after all, it is the gate of extremes. When you're dealing with the 15th gate, it's something to understand about the whole thing about the material way through logic. Remember, logic is trying to establish a theoretical solidity. But if you follow the logic to its end materially, you will get to bust. Because eventually it explodes. We saw that with empires. You know, this is the nature. I mean, after all, what we call the past in terms of empires, whatever, they were basically businesses, eh? I mean, they were basically what we would call global conglomerates. You know, Rome was basically a global conglomerate, you know, and eventually it fell apart. There is boom and there is bust. And so it's one of the things to keep in mind. It's so important to see that it's essential, this process. In other words, you know, a product is only going to be attractive as long as you can keep on getting attention to that product. You know, you keep on inflating it, inflating it, inflating it, inflating it. But at some point it becomes old hat. There are very, very few products that survive a century. I mean, actual brands. You know, there are very, very, very few that will survive. There are companies that will survive that long who have gone through boom and bust with whatever pattern they were putting out and have reborn, bonds made and broken, have come back as another configuration. But the reality is, something to understand about brands, you know, they will always have this boom and bust built into them. It's there. And of course, it's there as long as you are rigid in following the logic. Remember, this is only an aspect. And it's only an aspect. And of course, here, the way in which you bring humanity together is that you homogenize them through getting them to be turned on by the same products that carry the same values. You know, this is so important. I mean, we would not be able to hold our modern societies together as unities without everyone having a television. So we homogenize the product, we homogenize the service, we keep everybody informed. I mean, America, a continental nation, never could have developed without the Morse code, the telephone, the radio, the television. Just couldn't have. There's no way to homogenize that huge, vast continent without those kinds of tools. And yet at the same time, there's boom and bust, the rise and fall, you know, and it's not 1,000-year Reichs anymore. You know, rise and fall is different because all of us are operating under the cliche of, you know, every man, woman is the king or queen in their castle. We have so many businesses that are just, yeah, they are evolved microcosms of being in control of countries or societies or cultures or villages. It's you know, the world's a business. So ego inflation. The way in which we get all of humanity to share the same values is that we have to turn them on to the same product. Think about that. The selling of religion. Think about the competition between, you know, Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, Judaism, you name it. They've all got a pitch. You know, they all have a pitch. They're all trying to win the homogenization battle so that we can have one set of values throughout the world. And that there is no business that wants to be lost naturally within the competition. All businesses thrive to be at the top, to have the largest market share, and on and on and on and on and on. Remember greed on the other side. So it's something very important to see that the way in which humanity is brought together in love and in hate, is the way you sell them the products. You sell them direction. You know, the National Socialists in Germany in the 30s, particularly under Goebbels, were able to use for the first time the incredible capacity of radio to be able to create a value structure of hate. And it was so easy to do it. And it's so easy to do that to anyone, anywhere. You know, if you control the media, you control the society. And sooner or later, you homogenize that society into at least a superficial, remember, it eventually busts, you know, a superficial acceptance of the values of that product service, which is direction, a direction of love. How, you know, this is how we can all live together as brothers. This is how we can all live together in peace and harmony. There's your pitch. And we can do that if we all share the same values. We can do that if we all buy the same products. You know, don't buy French wine. You know, piss them off. Good idea, actually. Buy Spanish wine. It's really good. Fuck the French. Cowards. Useless people. I could go on for days, eh? Don't like them. I mean, Jacques Chirac is a thief. He's a thief. He's a well-documented thief. He's a kleptocrat. You know, he's a very sophisticated, francophone kleptocrat. You know? I mean, he has put more dirty money in his pocket and in his family's pocket. You know? I mean, they should string him up from a fucking pole somewhere. You can tell why I've retired. I'm really ready to get into a lot of trouble, and I'm trying to help my family out. Quiet down. Relax now. Okay, let's come to the beauty. 46th gate is the gate of the love of the body. The love of the body. You know, there was always this saying, it's always the saying of usually our grandparents, you know, the most important thing is health. And they'll always tell you the same thing. You know, the most important thing is health. Yeah. However, the love of the body isn't just about health. It isn't. Oh, look at us as a creature. I mean, look at all the mammals. None of them wear clothes. I mean, other than people who put costumes on dogs, which I think is insane. You know? They wouldn't choose that themselves. You know, it's like, what am I going to wear today? You know? Yeah, I can see my dog going to the cupboard, you know? Oh, what am I going to wear today? Human beings. Adornment. Tattoos and nose piercing and massages and oils and silk and fur. The love of the body. It's about good fortune. It's all about good fortune. It's about luck. You know? My adage is, may you be healthy and right at the right time. You know? Correctness is a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing. But really understand something. The 46th gate is the vessel. The body is the temple. The temple is here to be adorned. In truth, In truth, that's simply the not-self venerating. It's the not-self worshipping. But for me, it's also the embrace of the Maya. That we embrace the Maya through these forms. And that we are not satisfied in that sense. That we have to create an illusion on the form itself. That we adorn the form. The style and length of our hair, our clothes, whether we adorn our body with jewelry or not, with this or not, perfumes or not, all of this stuff. Whether we care for our bodies, whether we like our bodies to be looked after. You know, there are people that love to have their feet massaged or their temples massaged or this or that or the other thing. You know, people who need to pull their sockets and all of this stuff that goes with the body. All of this is what's sold here. Let me show you how to treat your body well. Let me show you how to love your body. You know, and in that you can see some hidden tantra. But the reality is that when you're looking at the 46th gate, good fortune that may be perceived as the result of serendipity, but derives from effort and dedication. And it's, you know, this is all part of the great channel of discovering. And one discovers through the form. You know, it is the heart of my teaching. You know, it's the love that I understand. You know, I don't have the 15, I don't have the 46. I have the 10 and the 25. So my real wisdom is in the 15 and it's in the 46. And it's one of the things that I recognize so deeply about the 46 is that when I went out into the world and I began to do readings and I began to meet the dislike that people have for themselves, it was like walking into temples in which had been used as open toilets. I mean, and really, I'm not just saying it that way to try to be shocking or crude. I really mean it. You know, soiling these incredibly beautiful temples. You know, just beautiful. You know, and again, seeing that this is the vessel. I mean, it's only through the vessel that the spirit emerges. It's only through the vessel that life takes its form and so forth and so on. So everything about the 46th gate is selling a direction, and it's selling a direction of loving the body. And in loving the body, loving the experience of the body in its process. The third line is projection, and it's about the practical approach to good fortune. It's about maintaining the same patterns and attitudes that brought success and does not get sidetracked by indulging in further expectations. Oh, it's so important to grasp that. You see, everything about the experiential process is be in the experience. Be in the experience. Don't try to get out. Be there. Accept with grace the good fortune. Be there. You know, there you will find your reward. It will be there. There you will meet the true trial and error of any experiential way. And as you conquer that by being there, so you enrich yourself. See, for me, the 46, the third line, is about luck. You know, luck be your lady tonight. It's about luck. I consider myself to be a very lucky man. But I know what luck is. I know what it is. Luck is everywhere the moment you stop looking for it. It's everywhere the moment that you're simply within yourself. It's everywhere the moment that you are just plain correct. It's everywhere. Everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. And you will get it. You will have your serendipity. That was my Sunday sermon. The 25th game, innocence. Now, I do love irony. So much of understanding the potential of any human being is recognizing that human beings, particularly those that we know that go through this kind of process, they're not really of value until they're in their 50s. They're not. It's a learning process. I mean, it's a learning process. And it's something to really understand. I look back on my own life. I look back at so many things that I've done, jobs that I've had, work that I've done, much of which at the time was, it was just there and I did it, and much of which when it was over, I never wanted to do it again or even think about it. And I did so many things. I looked particularly chaotic if you would look at my life movement in all those years. And then I end up in this particular movie, and I discovered something really incredible. There really wasn't anything that I had ever done that wasn't of value to me now in this role. It was amazing. It was amazing. It was like, wow. All that stuff that I thought was so stupid or mindless or this or that or whatever, the jobs that were just, the things you had to go through, the embarrassment of all the stuff that, the whole thing, a whole track. And here I am in this role, and every single one of those things have been a bedrock for me, a deep foundation. And in the 25th gate, you really get to see that. The third line, sensibility, let's be sensible. The recognition that innocent action does not in itself guarantee success. It doesn't. Third line theme, you correctly enter into something that goes wrong. It's not bad. Let's be sensible now. You gained experience. That experience at some point will be of deep value to you in your life when it becomes synthesized with your whole life's direction. It will be there. And it's one of the things about initiation. And it's one of the things that I know as an initiator, is that you can take them to sweet water, but you can't make them drink. You can't make them drink. It's not possible. I understand this about the nature of initiation. The nature of initiation is, all right, here's your chance. Me to you. Here's your chance. Whether it is or it isn't, let's be sensible about this. It isn't going to be for everyone. It isn't. You see, this is where mutation is nothing more than a shock wave that may or may not take hold. It's not like the 360 and the 14.2. It's very different. It's just a shock wave. It's the chance for the Satori moment. It's the chance for the transcendent perspective. Doesn't mean it's going to last. There isn't anyone who ever sat in a reading with me that wasn't initiated, yet going out the door doesn't mean that the shockwave held. It doesn't. It doesn't. It's not really mutative. It's not. It's very innocent. The perfection of action through uncontrived and spontaneous nature. This line holds a great mystery for our time. Look at the line. If you look at the line, you'll see that Mars is exalted, the aspect I read to you, the power of the ego to withstand failure and still maintain its nature. The power of the spirit to withstand failure and shock. In other words, it's built in to deal with failure, yet to see something. Here is where you're changed by the failure. You're changed by the experience. But look at the detriment. It's a Pluto detriment. And I want you to think about something. If you look at the wheel, you will see that the 2551, that channel, is in Aries. 25 is a little bit at the end of Pisces. It's a cusp hexagram. Pluto hasn't been there for over 180 years. There is nobody alive on this planet that carries Pluto in this line. So it's not there in the neutrino ocean of programming. It's not available. It's not there. There is no detriment to this line. This is my Mercury. You know? It was one of the great jokes for me. You know, because when I looked at that, I recognized I can't fail. Look at the negative. Look at the negative. The potential loss of innocence through misfortune that in the extreme can manifest from crime to suicide. The potential loss of spirit through failure or shock. None of us have to live through that. None of us. Our grandchildren or great-grandchildren, when Pluto gets around to Aries, it'll come back. It'll come back. So it's a very special time. Now why and how? Think about the last 100 years. There has been more inventions in the last 100 years. There has been more initiation of the new in the last 100 years than in all of the history of humanity brought together, and much more. And of all those new initiations, all of them, they all had their moment in the sun. Most of them disappeared very quickly. Where are hula hoops today? You know? Where did they go? They disappeared. And rocket radios and God knows what else. Bless you. Where did they all go? You know, they had their moment in the sun. They had their moment of shocking their way and opening up and saying, I'm here. But they didn't necessarily last. The 10th gate. The 10th gate is very important. And it's very important in the sense that everything having to do with the 10th gate has to do with the behavioral psychology of the material way. Everything about the 10th gate is that it's the only gate that truly expresses the archetype of behavior. You know, literally, how to act in the world, how to survive in the world, how to follow your convictions in the world, how to awaken to principles in the world. All of this is through the 10th gate. The underlying code of behavior which ensures successful interaction despite circumstances. Nothing is more important to success materially than the right behavior that ensures successful interaction. Nothing more important. If you don't have the 10th gate, you know, ultimately you're here to recognize what behavior works under what circumstances. Nothing more important than guiding the behavior of those on the material plane. You know, if you're a salesperson, there's a certain way to behave, and it needs to be trained. You know, if you're a manager, there's a certain way to behave. It has to be trained. You know, all of those things are behavioral. And if you operate with the correct behavior, you know, if your job is to be, you know, somebody who is going to be in the middle of a dispute, you know, you're going to try to bring conciliation. If you don't know how to behave, you're really in trouble. You know, if you sit down there and say, all right, you jerks over there, I don't like your, you know. Anyway, you know what I mean. In other words, it's very important, and behavior is something that we sell. We sell. You know, it's like going to finishing school. You know, in the old days for girls, you know, you would be finished, you know, perfected, you know, how to have exactly the right wiggle, you know, how to move across a room, how to curtsy without farting, you know, all of that stuff. I had to inject a little levity there, you know. The martyr. So what is the behavior? The behavior is a futile rejection of standards based on a just awareness. The martyr, enduring example. You know, you have to set the example. And you have to stand up for that example. No, we're supposed to behave like this. Somebody's always got to have that job. You know, and of course you get to see this in large organizations where, you know, the implementation of chain of command behavior. You know, how do you deal with those that are superior to you? How do you deal with those that are inferior to you? And on and on and on and on. All of that behavioral stuff. All of it. It's big business. The other thing is the other side. And the other side is being able to help people enjoy their work. You know, the moment that you can help somebody through guiding them in terms of their behavior, you can help them to fit in better. You can help them to be more comfortable in the environment they're in, that their behavior fits into the environment that they're in, that they're going to enjoy themselves more, they're going to love themselves more in their work. And of course, this is all the question of individual dignity. You know, individual dignity is something that always has to be sold. So the manager has to be sold on, you know, treating its team with respect, with dignity. And yet at the same time, knowing how to get out of them what is required by the responsibilities of that job. And almost all of it is behavioral. I mean, almost all of it is behavioral. Okay, that brings us to the Sphinx gates in the G, and we come to the prime Sphinx gate. We come to the second gate. It's the gate where the magnetic monopole sits, so it's dealing with the heart of our direction in life. We already saw that the main impetus of wealth through the 14th gate, the introduction of the new, but where to take the new, how to introduce the new, how to bring the new out. It's one thing to be the mad scientist who says, you know, eureka. It's another thing to turn eureka into a household word. And the ability to do so is about the direction that mutation takes. If mutation is properly nourished, if it is properly directed, then it's going to be able to have its impact. And when you're looking at the second gate and you're looking at the third line, you're really looking at, you know, one of the great truths of development anyway, which is patience, the teacher that never stops being a student. You know, the line speaks for itself. It says, dedication to a lifetime of receptivity with the maturity to accept that the process never ends. When connected permanently to the 14th gate through the beat channel, rewards for services rendered. And so the real rewards are not inherent in the energy of the 14th gate, but the real rewards are only possible through the right direction. And again, this goes back to one of the many things that we see about the relationship between material success and basic survival mechanisms, that success is based on strategies. And when you're looking at the second gate, what you're looking at is, you know, the strategy of how you bring something out, how you move it, what direction you give it, and how you pull people to it as a direction. Because again, remember, that's so important. It's so important in understanding that through the Open G Center, what you're selling is security in direction. This is the way. You know, if you take this new system into your life, you are going to be different, and so forth and so on. And how to do it. You know, my process as a teacher, my process as a mechanic has improved over the years because of the strength of my second gate. You know, I keep on trying to refine how you bring this knowledge out. I went from intensely recruiting not selves who would be interested, you know, in education, to extensively recruiting not selves who aren't interested in education, but are always interested in something new. You know, here's a new thing. You know, try this, you'll like it. Here's an easy step. Do this, you'll like it. Looking for the right direction. And it's all about patience. Remember, it's all 7-year cycles. Always, everything, 7-year cycle. Doesn't matter whether you think you're getting a temporary job, you're carrying it as a 7-year cycle. And in recognizing that fulfillment is going through that cycle and that you require patience, but more than that, I'm an archetype of this. You know, I have an unconscious mind, so I don't really know what I'm going to say. You all know that. And the fact is that the elaboration on the formula that I was given in my mystical experience has only been possible because I had students. And the moment that there were students in front of me came all this elaboration. You know, and there never would have been any elaboration if there wasn't anybody. And of course, out of that elaboration came new understanding. I mean, as a teacher, I've grown because of you. You know, every time I give a course, particularly those courses that I've never given before, you know, every time I give that course, there's always something new that emerges out of my unconscious, you know, that emerges out of this mental process of mine. And so without that, there would have been no growth. And this is, again, one of the things to recognize is that the greatest learning comes when you're a teacher. You know, the greatest learning comes when you are running your material life as a teacher. You know, because then you're always the student. You know, you're always learning. You know, you're always trying to stay ahead of the curve. You know, it's one of those great things. So, you know, the direction is not given. The direction is a learning process. It's a learning process. And it's a refinement. Remember, we always see that in direction because direction expresses itself through the three sphinx gates that point to the throat. That is what we call roll gates. And in each of these roll gates, we become very specific in the way in which we sell direction. You know, when we go to the seventh gate, we're selling logical direction through logical leadership. We're selling logical direction. Here's the theory. We're selling you a theory. Here's the theory. And of course, I love this about the seventh gate and the thematic of what it is to be a leader. It's to be an anarchist. It's to be an anarchist. The rejection of any institutionalized order. The constant need for change no matter what the prevailing conditions. Tinkering, you know? I mean, the fact is that a logical pattern is never guaranteed to operate perfectly. Never. 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 You know, it'll only operate for a certain amount of time. For example, scientific laws. Any scientific law can be altered through mutation. Any scientific law. You get close enough to a black hole and you'll see scientific laws fall apart. You know, any scientific law. So again, it's something to understand about the nature of materialism. The nature of materialism is Las Vegas. Have you ever been to Las Vegas? Oh. They will put up a $1 billion building. They will keep it in operation 5 years, and they'll tear the sucker down and build another one. Have you ever noticed that churches are built on old spiritual sites? You know, how many mosques are built on old Hindu temples, or, you know, and so forth and so on. We have this thing about tearing down and building up new. I remember going through the whole period in the 70s in North America with urban renewal. This was the big catchphrase. Urban renewal. Make the cities human again. And they did. I mean, many of them. They did. You know, they took all these decrepit things that had fallen apart because of suburbia and malls and all of this shit, and they started working on renewing. And this is the whole thing about anarchy. It's ugly, it doesn't work anymore. Tear it down, we'll build a new one. 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 This is business. You know how much work is done in consultancy by tearing down old models in order to build a new one? Tear it down to build a new one. Tear it down to build a new one. Tear it down to build a new one. You know, and this is one of the things about understanding the way in which we develop materially. Is that we develop materially by making money on a foundation that's been established long before. You know, it's like calling prostitution the oldest business. You know, you keep on building better bordellos. You know? Now we have internet bordellos. It's hilarious. You know, you keep on building on the foundations of it. You keep on improving, new and improved, but it's more than new and improved. It's got a whole new look. Got a whole new look. And then you tear it down, you build another one. You tear it down, build another one. You tear it down, build another one. It's been going on forever. Forever, 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 forever. You know, I mean, the many, many, many years that I had a close relationship with Germany. You know, to see a place that was torn down, literally torn down, rebuilt. Yet it was built on the same foundations, just new and improved. You know, Frankfurt's a new and improved look. Yeah, it's amazing. This is what we are. And it's a whole thing to understand about making money. Every 7 years, you kill the golden calf and you make a new one. I mean, so important. You know, and it doesn't mean that it disappears. It just, you know, you improve it. You improve it because you've been through the trial and error process, you've been through the discovery process, you've seen the weaknesses, and you know something else. At the end of that 7-year cycle, that your basic market has had enough of you, even though you've got a good product, even though you have a good service. So if you want to hold on to them, you have to renew the bond. And the only way you're going to renew the bond is, hey, have we got something new for you? You know how much is spent on the R in R&D? Research and development. There's a fortune spent on research. You've got drug companies, you know, that spend what most of Africa tries to earn in a year. You know, you will have a single drug company like Pfizer that will spend $12 billion a year on research. On research for what? For something new. This is a better anti-cancer drug. This is a better anti-this drug. This is a better da-ba-ba. And every once in a while they're really lucky with something really new. I mean, really new. You know, you can have an erection for 12 days. You know, half the world bought it. You know. The value of research. Eh? And you have to see that this is the mechanism. Tear it down, build it up. Many countries in the world have presidents they elect for 7 years. Like France, but they should kill the bastard anyway. Am I on that again? Sorry. Mexico. You know, you have countries that elect their presidents for 7 years. It's actually very intelligent, unless you get a guy like Bush. You know. I'm retired. I don't think they'll hurt me anymore. Okay, let's go over. Let's get away from that, okay? It's all trouble. Let's go to the 33rd gate and talk about the abstract direction. Remember that the abstract direction is all rooted in the great gift of memory. Those of us that were looking at bases a while back saw that without memory, there's no self-reflective consciousness and there's no development of consciousness and the intellectual mind. And consciousness, the intellectual mind, is dependent on reflection as part of its prana in order to be able to attain levels of insight that are valuable. The 33rd gate is the active withdrawal and the transformation of a weak position into a strength.
It is time.
Erase that. I was on the other side again. No, I'm going to the throat. I'm trying to get there. I want to, you know, I want to go play the piano. All right, the fellowship of man. I was avoiding that at all costs. Good, as long as I'm offending people. You can't run a business without secrets. I wanted to get to the nice side of all this. You can't run a business without secrets. You can't. Not only that, there is nothing that sells better than secrets. I'm a 33, I don't have the 13. I sell secrets. I sell them. I mean, I do. I have a secret for you. You want to know your incarnative sequencing? Eh? Eh? You want to know what nobody else has ever known? Do you have a credit card? We take cash. I'll sell you a secret. Oh, yeah. Oh, human beings love secrets. They have secrets. And the secrets are worth so much more than the truth. I mean, as long as it's a secret, you can inflate its value endlessly. I know the secret of the past. I was once a Lemurian. Yeah. I lived on Atlantis. As a matter of fact, I ruled. Yes. Secrets. I belong to a secret society. Here we are in the world of conspiracy. In the world of the cabal. Eh? Look, we're the 5 biggest wheat producing companies in the world. Let's fix the fucking price. You know? The hell with competition. And you charge a half cent more, I'll charge a half cent less. You know, we'll make it look pretty much the same. And we can keep our inflated level. And all of you buy shredders so that the documents can be destroyed when the investigators come. Okay? Oh, and shh. And then the government offers a reward if you can find out the cheaters. Have you ever noticed how nice that is? You know, I'll pay you to get to the secret. So secrets are valuable. And they're more valuable when they're not revealed. You know? Because not all secrets turn out to be the truth. As a matter of fact, most secrets turn out to be bullshit. Eh? Not the truth at all. You know? Let me tell you what I know about Jane. Pessimism. The belief that the best can never be achieved. A lack of trust that can only be transformed through concrete evidence. Openness that is conditioned by suspicion and seeks evidence. Right? If you don't think you can ever get the best, if you don't think that it's possible for you to trust the direction to bring you what you want in return for your investment, then fix it. You know, cheat. I appreciate these things. You see, I not being a moralist, I really don't mind. You know? It's one of the things. I really understand it. See, look at a New Age magazine. I mean, look at a New Age magazine. What do you think they're selling? They're selling secrets. It's all selling secrets. You know, I'll sell you the secret of Tantra. I'll sell you the secret of being, you know, at peace. I'll sell you the secret of standing on one leg for the rest of your life. I'll sell you all the secrets. You know, I'll sell you the secret of enlightenment. You know, I'll sell you the secrets. I will. I mean, Scientology for years offered a course that, you know, for $20,000 you could buy enlightenment. I mean, people will spend money on secrets. They will. Have you ever noticed how many books have the word secret in it? I mean, go into any self-help section of a bookstore. It's all secrets on sale. Dr. Jane's secret, you know, G-spot book. I don't know. There's all these secrets. Underneath that is satire. You know, this is one of the great lines of satire. It's something very special to understand that when it comes to the material and it comes to the not-self, you have to have carrots. If you don't have carrots, nothing works. Secrets are one of the greatest carrots. I will show you the way. I know the secret. You follow me and pay me well. Now, obviously, that can be done in truth. I mean, I didn't sell an empty bag for the secrets. But, in the practicality of looking at life, we can see what all of that's about. The first hexagram, the creative. Creation is a primal force. The energy potential to manifest inspiration without limitation. And the third line is the energy to sustain creative work. And the creative work is the work of demonstration. It's the work of demonstration. That is the creative direction. Right? The profound need for self-expression. And in the end, this is the primary direction. Is that through our success on the material plane, we get to express ourselves more fully. In other words, we gain advantage. Everybody has a right, every unique human being has a right to their advantage because they are unique. You only gain that advantage through self-expression. And something else to understand, that so much of the material is creative. To succeed on the material plane is to be a creative being. I can remember that when I was in university, that the creative types were always scowling at the scientific types or at the business types. And, my thing is that I love all of that. I love all of it. I like being a creative business scientist. I mean, there's something very exciting about taking all of those things and synthesizing them into something else. And yet in the end, what it is about is that we are unique creative forces, in the sense that we are unique reactive forces. And that the way in which the material plane can operate is a reflection of who we are. And who we are as the true self and its shadow embraced as one. And so, as we sell the story of becoming yourself, as we sell the story of living out your nature, living out your design, what we're also seeing is that in the perfection of that, this is the creative experience and this is the creative material experience. See, for me, awakeness transforms taking out the garbage into nothing more than what's happening. Nothing more, nothing less. It's just, this is what's happening. It's all that's what's happening. And of course, the greatest happening for us is when we see that in being ourselves, we are not simply honoring ourselves for the first time, but the material domain honors us in return. Let's move now to the throat. Do with all this shit. The eighth gate. Let's complete the other side of this track. I love this. It's so nice. It's so nice. By the way, the basic worth, you can smell money here. The basic worth realized in contributing individual efforts to group goals, holding together. And the third line, the phony. Isn't that wonderful? Pope John Paul. Yeah? He's an 8-3. Eh? What a great phony. Eh? But after all, if you're going to sell, this is the selling of self-expression, the acceptance of style and not substance. Ah, baby, have I got something to teach you. That new and improved, it's not about substance. It's about style. We don't mind if you change the bottle that the Coke comes in But don't fuck with the recipe. Long as the substance is there, that's okay. And you can attract us or not with a new style. But style is what improved is all about. It's all about style. And oh, you can see how that infects us all. All of us. We are all style conscious in one way or another. Because this is how the new sells us. And because it's how the news sells us, it's what's out there. And there's all kinds of styles and styling. You know, it's the old joke about you can dress her up, but you can't take her out. You better have consistent substance. You know, if you don't have consistent substance, you're really in trouble. You know? And it's one of the things to understand about style is that style will work for you as long as there is an underlying substance. So for example, the leadership in design has been led by a freak, me, my style, my way of doing whatever I do. And the style is changing. Substance remains the same. Substance remains the same. You know, the style. And this is a natural progression. The only way that you can maintain a mutation is that you cyclically improve its style. And it's all surface. It's all surface. But otherwise you don't get the not self. You know, so the moment that you diversify the human design palette into areas of specialization, you know, you've got the health style, you've got the consulting style, you know, you've got the analytical style, you know, you've got all these different kinds of things that can be improved, you know. We're a new and improved area of your substance, the substance you trust. Haven't you ever seen that in ads? You know, when they're introducing some dilapidated product that never sold, you know, and the pitch is, we're the company that brought you this and this and this, and here is our new and improved and wonderful boop. Buy this boop. Phonies. But where would we be without them? I mean, where would they be? Have you ever seen, you know, have you ever read style columns? You know, and it's about what you drink and what you eat and what you wear and where you go. It's all about the material class system. It's the reinforcement. If you have money, honey, you better know how to dress. Otherwise, nobody's going to know that you have money, honey. You know? It's style. You know, and if you've got the money, honey, and you've got the dress, and you don't know what the third fork is for, you're fucked. You better learn some styling. Let us work on you and bring you to the style that your money deserves. And it's what we do, and boy does it sell. It's incredible. I mean, we're gloss creatures. Look at us. We're Maya creatures. I mean, we don't wear clothes to keep us warm. We're Maya creatures. We're illusion machines. You know? We don't even think about how much we are illusion machines and the illusions we put out. What am I going to wear today? Have you ever thought about what that means? You know? It's not like, here I am. You know, it's, what am I going to wear today? What style am I going to put across today? We're not going to talk about Randy. You know, overalls and Gucci's have their own sort of, you know. Can I do the 33 now? Good. Retreat, right? Active withdrawal and the transformation of a weak position into a strength. Oh, the value of reflection. The value of reflection. I mean, if you want to get mundane, it is about meetings. It is about feedback. It is about discussions. It's about looking into things in order that there is a level of accountability. The 33rd gate is a gate of remembrance. It's a gate of revelation. It is the thing that is able to take in all of that information. And it is about spirit. The attitude that turns retreat into victory. The responsible and principled retreat based on the preservation but with the determination to persevere. Privacy as a path to success. It's about success. And it means that unless you go into retreat, which means unless you take a breath and you reflect, unless you sit and you discuss, then you're not going to be able to be on top of adaptation. The ability to be able to adapt to changes. If you don't remember what you've just been through, you have no record of movement in the experience. And so this is an essential ingredient, and it's the spirit. The spirit rises through the penetration of the secret. Because you get to see whether it was really a secret or not. I mean, it's all the prodigal. It's all the prodigal process. When we're dealing with the throat center, like with the 8, like with the 33, remember that the throat center, the theme I mentioned in the 8 of demonstration, the throat center, the open throat center strategy is the need to attract attention. This is the only way that anything, any business concept, any business process, any material path, the only way it manifests is through the throat. It doesn't matter whether the plane is generated, it manifests through the throat. And this is the only place where metamorphosis takes place. It's the only place where you can actually see the bottom line. The bottom line, in this sense, is the throat. Can you attract attention to your service, to your product, to your value, whatever the case may be? So, one of the ways to attract attention is to pull out of the limelight, to analyze things, and to be able to go back and deal with it and work with getting the right kind of attention based on experience. Remember that everything about the roll gates expressed through the throat is how do you attract attention to your direction? You want to attract attention to learning about mistakes from the past. You want to attract attention to the potential of a formula in the future. You want to attract attention to what's new and improved. What has a new style. You want to attract the attention to the style. Living styles are changing all the time. We live very differently today than our parents lived. We have a different style of living. Just the advent of, the common usage of airplanes and computers. And right away, you have a different style of living that's inherent. We have a different style of eating. We have abundance in our supermarkets and so forth and so on. It's all very different. Style is always moving. Always. Always. We're very style conscious. So in this context of, and I want to emphasize that because remember that, the 1, the 7, and the 13, they're